Hello, Kyle.
Good morning to you.
So Francois Hollande and his 60-point plan to win the presidency, that's dominating headlines today.
That's right. All the papers are leading with that. In particular, Le Monde says, listen, this is a very detailed plan. They've all but endorsed the man as the next president. They say, his tone yesterday was almost Churchillian. No, France isn't in the midst of a war right now, but France is facing very tough times indeed. It's on the verge of recession. Unemployment is very high. And in short, François Hollande seems to have the plan not only for now, but for the future. So he's installed in his 60-point plan both a sense of austerity, a sense of economic rigor, but also he has a sense that there has to be some kind of hope, especially for young people in the future. And so he's had, as well as the deficit cutting, a number of measures introduced to create jobs in education and indeed to create small businesses, give more incentives.
And how's he going to pay for all of this then?
Well, that's a good question. One of the measures he's going to introduce is to cut tax loopholes by about 29 billion euros. Now, that should put him in good stead to begin to cut the deficit. But the Figaro says, if you'll see right here on the front page, this is just a tax-raising program, and indeed he's going to balance the books on the backs of the wealthy. It's far too ideological. He's resurrecting old debates. He's using far too much of the state to generate economic growth, and that's just far too reminiscent of the left of old, says Le Figaro.
Oh, I see. Now, what about the left-of-centre papers? I'm sure they've welcomed his plans with open arms, haven't they?
Well, yes. I mean, Libération says not a moment too soon. After 10 years of right-wing governments, it's about time that we have a government of the left that restores public services, that has some sense of industrial policy. This multi-point plan is reminiscent a bit of François Mitterrand back in the 1980s. But the difference, of course, Libération says, is that Mitterrand's 100-point plan was far too ambitious, it wasn't costed, and so it ended up being, to a large measure, abandoned. Whereas the 60-point plan yesterday, not only by Libération, but by most accounts, especially on the left, they're saying this looks very prudent, progressive, yes, but careful and rigorous at the same time.
Now, what about President Nicolas Sarkozy? Well, all this attention is on Francois Hollande. I'm sure he'll be wanting to glean some back himself, no?
Well, this is interesting. We have the election campaign that has yet to be declared, really. Nicolas Sarkozy has yet to say whether he'll be a candidate. And so in the meantime, he seems to be sending out the troops. If you see in Le Parisien, you'll see that he's sending in the heavyweights, as they say. And there you see Alain Juppé, the foreign minister, as well as François Fillon in the middle there. And so the point, I suppose, of this article is to say, it's as if Sarko is waging his campaign by proxy. He has yet to declare, but here we have, last night, for example, on French television, we saw Alain Juppé very much taking an aggressive stance, at least in the beginning of the debate. It's what Le Parisien calls a duel between the two. And, what ended up happening, some interesting moments, really. Let me just draw your attention to one thing. You kind of have to have a sense of the quirks of French politics to appreciate, I suppose, the humor of this, because François Hollande apparently refuses to utter the name Nicolas Sarkozy. It's not something he likes to say in public. I'm not sure if he has some superstition about it. And so at one point, Juppé said, listen, all of the growing tax burden that you refer to, because this is something that Hollande has taken Sarkozy to task about for several days now, is the growing mountain of debt. Juppé said, listen, that's over a period of 30 years. Governments left and right have contributed to this growing debt. Not only that, but the economic crisis right now. He said, listen, Sarko can't do anything about that. And then, of course, he said, Sarko, do you mean Monsieur Sarkozy? To which Juppé replies, you have said it finally. You've said the name at last. So a lighter moment in what was otherwise a pretty one-sided debate.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that update there, Cal G. Brown, with our press review. Okay, we're going to take a very quick break, but we will be back very shortly.